how do you keep a heated debate or a conversation going in the wrong direction in a negative emotionally way back on track? So what led to my second question about how to keep a heated debate civil? The golden rules of this collective hold on, was that every voice counts. They'll be taken seriously as anyone sitting on a traditional board. We will always listen, but we don't always have to act. I was like, dang. And this is not saying reflection. This is now another personal reflection. How, because you and I had some not heated debates, but we snapped at each other when you're on a high stress level, I'm a high stress level, and we kind of monitor differently, and we still can kind of move along and say, sorry, I fucked up. Or even if you're in a relationship and you're like, oh, this is getting really, really, really heated. We gotta readjust some way, somehow. So I kind of want to hear your take before I go on mine, is that how do you keep a heated debate or a conversation going in the wrong direction in a negative emotionally way back on track?
I'll break it up into two categories. There's the familiar and unfamiliar. We'll start with familiar because it's easier. Familiar, I mean that coming from you've been able to build a relationship with the individual, so you kind of know what makes them tick. And after having some time of knowing and being able to read them, having the awareness of being able to see the signals of this person's tapped out is kind of, press off the gas a little bit versus how to kind of navigate through different things. And with the familiar, you've probably already kind of set some kind of like social contract with the person of how you're going to communicate with them. Whether that's, how transparent you could be, you could let someone know or not, hey, you're being a dick. It's a different level of like cadence with that person than someone that's unfamiliar. Unfamiliar probably would be a business meeting. You probably know someone for, half hour. It could be a really tense topic. And so you have to tiptoe around it very, very differently so that the conversation can still be productive and not just stonewalled on both ends. I think those are the two ways I look at it. And it helps determine how to be the most diplomatic in each of those situations.
Yeah. I kind of want to touch base on the unfamiliar because it was I had a story with me and my boss, and it was less than a year work, so we're still trying to feel each other out. And he was stressed. Some people left. I wasn't doing my job to a certain extent. Like there was a miscommunication, and he kind of just leaned in and he kind of just went off. And so you're supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be on your shit. And I was like, fuck this guy. And I was like, and around the water cooler, it was spread back to him because I said, man, fuck this guy, man. I was so mad. I was like, what the fuck do you do? I'm in season. What is this fucking expectation? And it could have been really, really bad because it did come back to him, and I was venting to one of my coworkers. He's like, yeah, I should check on Justin. I think he's hella mad at you. and then me and him just talked. We just talked it out. It's like, hey, I know you're mad at me. I didn't mean it, but these are the expectations of you. I do like you can do a lot, and I see you doing a lot. And we just kind of hashed it out, and we can't really now present day, we can have a lot of hard conversations. He'll tell me to fuck off, and I'll tell him to fuck off. And we
Let
don't
me pause you real quick. Did he approach you to have the conversation, or did you approach him to have that conversation? Because I think it's different from a manager coming to a subordinate versus a subordinate going to their manager.
Mutual, because we were both in the room in the office. He was telling me something, and then he was like, hey man, you want to talk? I was like, so he brought it up and he let me vent. He knew something was wrong. But he never said, hey, I need to talk to you. He was like, he brought the ball to my court pretty much.
What if he didn't do that? What if you had to try to open that conversation? How do you think it would have went?
I think it would have went equally fine if he was receptive of it. If he wasn't receptive of it, I think that would have been bad.
What if you didn't know if, like, you don't know if he's going to be receptive or not? So you have to bring it up because you're like frustrated. What would have been your approach?
Just kind of do it and see where it kind of fell, and how we talked about if this is the right situation or not. If not, fucking dip. I'm not gonna work for a boss and that won't listening to me as a person, not saying I could bitch about the job, just me as a person and how I'm feeling. And if we can't go to that type of conversation, then that's someone I don't want to work for. And as we talked about, I'm not sure if we had this in the pod or not, but athletic training, kind of job wise, pay depending on where you land, it's pretty much low across the board, or depending on the setting. Living here in California, it's pretty same across the board, and you're just looking for prestige, or you're looking for people to work with that you can really respect and love working with on a day-to-day basis. And I found the latter to that versus finding a power five and building a name and whatever that meant. So when if he was receptive to that, that would have been a win still, and would have been probably the same exact kind of dynamic we have. And if he kind of just blew me off, then I'd be like, okay, this guy's fucked.
I've had multiple encounters with different managers.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of the time I ended up bringing it up.
Yeah, he did not though. I had managers where I brought stuff up to. So go ahead, finish your story, and then I'll go on mine.
As you were talking, I was thinking through the different managers I've had conversations like this with. The difference in terms of how it, like the end result from that conversation, was whether the frustration was about each other or the frustration was about the task that we were both trying to solve. Because I think tensions can rise in both of the two situations of where, look, everyone's just tapped out, the work is freaking hard, or the project itself blew up. Everyone's mad about it, but we need to hash that out about the project. Then there's the other way of, we need to hash it out because there's actually different personalities and work styles that's happening between two different individuals. And that's a different, like, that could spiral, especially if the conversation doesn't go well.
And if it does not go well, you're completely fucked.
Oh yeah, at that part, it's got to probably start looking for a new job.
And I already knew this was going to be all right because he kind of already had the precursor of, hey, we're leaving our egos at the door, you know? And he also promoted that we're leaving the egos at the door. We can't fight within ourselves. We are family. And he did promote that. So I knew that environment was already safe to be in. Mm-hmm. Because before that spat happened, he already always said, hey, I got your back. Promotes, hey, we can't be mad at each other. We have to. So he set the ground rules pretty quick as soon as he stepped on. That's like how he wanted his philosophy as a team to be. And that helped as well to us to go to each other and talk things through instead of just kind of going off on each other. And those are a big difference. And so I think it also becomes how we open that topic up and how we're going to talk about hard things, because you kind of you set the boundaries of it's okay to talk about hard things. I'm pretty sure I said this again on the podcast, but I got fired for one job because there was a miscommunication, and he probably heard things from coworkers that weren't true, but he was pretty mad from what he heard and just reacted. And I quit. And then when I left, I said, hey, I hope to repair this relationship outside of this job. And we did that. And really, he's still one of my mentors. I can still talk to him and call him up. But yeah, it was harder for him because he didn't set that. He just went off and then fired. And I'm like, oh, fuck. We're like, what's going on? And over time, I had to rebuild that back up from multiple. He was reaching out to me, and it was a two-way street. That how it kind of happened. So it on that other end, with those ground rules aren't set, it can be very bad and more resentful than it is. Because yeah,
when I think of different managers I've had, or even the type of manager I want to be, I think of that picture where it differentiates between a boss and a leader. Mm-hmm. The picture of the boss is someone shouting out commands of, it's pulling an object.
Yeah, I remember that image.
Exactly. So there's like someone in the back yelling pull, and so like it's labeled as boss, and then the other one is labeled as leader, and the person is like in the front pulling with them and kind of leading, the group to complete that task. I think a lot of people either fall into one of the two, and there's definitely a different relationship that's built between the individuals pulling and the individuals that are helping guide and direct the group.
I want to add on to that. Another personal experience was that, so on my level, I'm like mid-tier in my level, and my office mate he was at that time lower. So me and him, we do butt heads, and he's one of those. It's one of the weird things. Like if I'm hard on you, I care. It sounds really bad, but if I'm hard on you and I'm nitpicky and I'm a dick, it's because I really see a lot of value in you and I know you can do. And it's probably very toxic. That's very bad.
It sounds
And
like a very like dad son
it
relationship.
is. It is. And that's how it, I don't know. I kind of had it and maybe it was bad. Maybe that's when just overly, and this is another learning lesson. And I was hard on him, man. It was my coworker was like, your expectation of anyone, even yourself, is unrealistic. So you can't hold them to that same expectation. That kind of brought down my walls. And I was like, damn, all right. And I became the more nurturing type of stuff instead of being the hard ass, but I was still nitpicking, but I wasn't doing it in, hey, let's talk it more through, let's meet down, like your rehabs aren't going well. What do you got to get done? Let's fix it. Let's get better at it. And you got to be more receptive at it, because he's one of those ones, if we would tell him what to do, he wouldn't execute it, or he wouldn't implement what he learned. And that was like the hardest part. And after we had a hard talk and we reflected all his cases and what went good, what went bad, and he was like, I'm seeing something. And he's killing this rehab right now. He has another rehab and he's killing it hella really, really well. And that athlete's like progressing very well. And to see that now is a very pleasing moment. And but yeah, that little talk was, your expectations of what you see in people is probably is unreasonable, and you cannot hold them out to that standard. That was pretty impactful, and I was like, crap, okay, I'm changing some stuff up.
There was like a quote that kind of came to mind. The expectation is perfection, but excellence is acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a mind shift of, you're striving for something, but knowing that it won't result in that, but still be above, the 99% is still okay.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to expect the best of the best from someone. I just
Yeah.
think
There's a way to go about it,
yeah.
And leading off was, probably you can agree with me or disagree, but when I thought about this topic, I thought about how me and my girlfriend talk to each other. Early on in the relationship, we had a very heated debate over a topic. She, like, her raising her voice, she was going after me and I was going after her. And I'm not gonna lie, my gout saved me that conversation, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie. Hey guys, I got gout, so you get a fun joke, but I just said, yo, my ankle hurts. Can we pause? Because like I was about to cry from the pain. I was like, I can't do this right now. I can't argue and deal with this pain. I gotta deal with one. I'm dealing with this pain right now. And it had a pause on our talk, and then it made me reflect on it. So the reflection point was small little golden rules or ground rules of that we both should have. Was that automatically, like, no judging, in the sense that, like, we have to hear each other out. We can't automatically just disprove one topic for the other. We cannot interrupt each other and cut each other off. We have to let each other finish their thought. If we feel like our tone is rising or becoming more aggressive, we either pause, take a break, or just breathe for a minute before we resume. And then at the end of the day, if we both walk away not agreeing, that's fine, but we do have to respect each other's point of view. That was like our four things, and every hard topic kind of fell in that kind of boundary, because we don't agree on everything, but we do respect on each other's views and kind of derive from each other and understand each other. And that's why I was like, oh shit, that's so yeah. So out of the conversation, that's what I had when I heard about the golden rules of the board, and that's, oh crap, that's how I usually talk with my boss, talk with my significant other. So I know you and I talk as well, so that's why I thought it was very interesting. How about you? What if you have that type of stuff?
There's probably one ground rule that we have in our relationship is, what has been said cannot be unsaid. And that becomes the baseline for a majority of the conversation. And so it creates a lot of, if there is a topic that can potentially become pretty contentious, we both take a lot of time to state what we say when we say it. And so the cadence of the conversations end up slowing down naturally, because we both understand that ground rule, so that there needs to be some thought prior to what is said before it is said. Because I think where people say things that they end up regretting becomes because they're either not thinking it through all the way, so they're kind of coming at it from more an emotional state versus a rational state. And that's where, like, it starts to kind of trigger, right? If rational's on one side, emotional's on the other side, the scale and intensity of that conversation, when it starts to shift more into emotional, is where it becomes more contentious, loud, hard for
Things might be said without, yeah, some things
Yeah.
might,
versus if you go all the way like rational, then you're kind of losing the emotional side because it's just pure logic. And so finding where to put that on the scale is that one rule allows us to be very conscious where we're at on that scale.
Yeah. Interesting stuff, man.
I think it comes a little bit because she's a lawyer. Like when we watch a lot of legal, I mean, think about it. If you're in court,
you gotta
right?
watch what you say, man.
But think about it, if you're like in court and you know how there's like the time where they're like objection, and they're like, you know, oh, scratch that from the record, like the jury, whatever that was said, please do not take that into consideration for like your decision making. But the fact that it was said is still going to persist in that person's mind.
Yeah. Regardless of the jury said disagree with it, it's still going to be in the mind.
Absolutely.
You cannot just disagree with that.
Yeah. So if you're in the court, sometimes, you're going to say something knowing it's going to be like scratched from the record, but you know that you planted a seed. And so
and you really cannot break that down.
And in a relationship, that's the equivalent of saying something that you regret saying later. It's a bad seed that's growing for the relationship because you said it that way, right?
That's a good point.
Yeah. Wow.
I think we should end it there. What do you think? That was pretty crazy. It's a good one.
That's wild. Yeah. No, I agree. That's taken a lot for me to kind of digest for a good amount of time. For those that are sticking around for the end of this episode, would love to hear your thoughts on how you approach contentious conversations, and if there's any strategies that you have with friends, family, or significant others to navigate that. Also, if you haven't liked, commented that, and subscribed, please do. We are, at the time of this recording, at 70 subs. We're trying to hit 100 in the next month, which would be amazing. Love to have you a part of that journey, and we will see you in the next one.
Peace.